Part 9. Annual Shareout. The principle of the annual shareout is to distribute all the assets of the group to members in proportion to the amount they have saved. The shareout is mandatory. It resolves outstanding issues, builds member confidence, allows for the smooth entry and exit of members, provides immediate verification that members' money is safe and the process is profitable. The timing of the shareout should have been predicted well in advance, and loans will have been issued in the last 3 months only if they could be repaid by the date of the shareout. The annual shareout is a straightforward procedure, but it is critical and needs to be facilitated with great care. It is common for the shareout to attract many observers from the community. A smooth, clear shareout and distribution of member payouts is the single most effective promotion of the group and the program. Mistakes or lack of clarity can instill doubts in the group and the community. As opposed to other procedures of the group, which improve steadily over the year, there is only one opportunity to do this right, and the facilitator must be extremely well prepared. It is strongly recommended that each facilitator use a set of visual aids, with the procedures clearly outlined. The results of each step should be clearly displayed such that they are visible and understandable to all members of the group. The procedure has 4 steps. 1. Count the total amount of cash in the loan fund. 2. Count the total number of shares. 3. Calculate the value of a single share. Divide the total amount of cash by the number of shares. 4. Calculate the payout to each member. Multiply the value of a single share by the number of shares owned by each member. The annual shareout varies considerably in duration and can take anywhere between 1 and 3 hours to complete. In July of 2010, the Shuvjev community-based savings group in Tajikistan conducted its first annual shareout. The following section describes the complete shareout procedures in detail based on this example. Step 1. Count the total amount of cash in the loan fund. The first step of the shareout is to count the total amount of cash in the loan fund. The only figure that matters is the physical amount of money in the loan fund. All of the money in the loan fund must be physically counted. It is insufficient to calculate this figure from any supplementary ledgers the group may have decided to maintain. Once all outstanding loans have been reimbursed, the chairperson calls on the money counters to count the closing balance of the loan fund. The social fund is not shared out. However, if the group wishes, it can liquidate the social fund at any time, but it is not recommended to do so on the day of the loan fund shareout, as this lengthens the meeting and increases the likelihood of complications. If any member owes money to the group from unpaid loans, the shares equal in value to their outstanding loan, plus any service charges due, are deducted in their passbook before the shareout is calculated. In the Shuvjev savings group, the money counters count a total of 8,452 Tajik somoni. Step 2. Count the total number of shares. From the member passbooks, the record keeper must then count the total number of shares purchased by all members during the cycle. This is rather straightforward, but is considerably simplified if the group has accurately maintained the summary boxes at the bottom of each page of the saving record. In the Shuvjev savings group, the record keeper counts a total of 1,604 shares. Step 3. Calculate the share value. Share value equals cash in the loan fund divided by total number of shares. In the Shuvjev savings group, the record keeper calculates the share value by dividing the money in the loan fund, 8,452, by the total number of shares, 1,604. This gives the share value of 5.269326683. The calculated share value is a figure with an infinite number of decimal places. The figure must then be rounded down to 2 decimal places more than the smallest unit of currency. The rounding process must be defined at the level of the project well in advance of the first shareouts. This decision is not to be left to the facilitators or the groups, as incorrect rounding methods can result in missing or excess remaining funds. In Tajikistan, the smallest unit of commonly available currency is the dirham. Therefore, the calculated share value is rounded down to the hundredth of a dirham. The figure must be rounded down. In the example, 5.269 is rounded down to 5.26. If the figure is mistakenly rounded up, there will be money missing at the end. Step 4. Calculate the payout to each member. In order to calculate the amount that each member will receive, the record keeper multiplies the share value by the number of shares owned by each member. For each member, the record keeper calculates the payout, rounding down the calculated figure to the smallest unit of currency. For example, in the Shuvjev savings group, Safina has purchased 72 shares throughout the cycle. Safina's payout is 5.26 times 72 shares, which equals 378 somoni. The record keeper announces the figure to the group, crosses out the share records with a red pen, and the money counters place the money in the member's passbook. The passbook is then placed neatly on the table or floor in front of the group. It is not yet returned to the member. Once all of the money has been allocated, there should remain only small change in the money counting bowl due to rounding. The actual amount remaining will depend on several factors, but is normally less than a couple of dollars. This is an important control mechanism. If funds are missing at the end and there is insufficient money for the payout of the last member, a mistake has clearly been made. Conversely, if more than $5 remain in the bowl, the process was somehow flawed. In either case, the entire process must be repeated. Once the record keeper has confirmed there is only small change remaining in the money counting bowl, each member is called to the front to receive their passbook and share out money. After all the passbooks and money have been distributed, there may remain a small amount of money in the loan fund. This money can be left in the loan fund or used for whatever the group wishes. Seed capital. Once the group has completed their first share out, the facilitator should applaud and congratulate the members and allow the group members to congratulate themselves. Members wishing to remain in the group and begin a second cycle are invited to stay, while those wishing to leave may do so. The loan fund is now almost empty and must be rebuilt through savings in the next cycle. As all members have redeemed their savings, there will be no funds for lending to initiate the cycle, and individual members' loan ceiling will also go back to zero to initiate the cycle. For some groups, this is fine. However, for many groups, the prospect of starting all over again from zero is discouraging or even unacceptable. If the group wishes, it can decide to rebuild the loan fund for the second cycle more quickly. If all the members agree, each member can purchase a number of shares to begin the next cycle. This is an exceptional purchase and the only time during the cycle that members may purchase more than 5 shares. This will rebuild the loan fund and allow members to borrow useful amounts earlier in the cycle. Before any discussions about allowing members to purchase an exceptional number of shares to begin the next cycle, the group must first prepare its passbooks and then decide the new share price for the next cycle. If members agree that the share price in the first cycle was appropriate, it can remain the same. Or, if the members prefer, the share price can be increased or decreased. After the group has determined the share price for the next cycle, each member is called upon to deposit the amount that they wish. The equivalent number of shares is written in the starting number of shares box in the savings record of the member's passbook. Each member can purchase the number of startup shares they wish. However, after the purchase of these startup shares, the group will go back to restricting their share purchases to between 1 and 5 shares per member per meeting. After all members have purchased their startup shares, the money counters count the money that has been contributed and announce the amount to the record keeper. They then place it in the loan fund bag. The record keeper then announces the closing balance of the loan fund to the group and places the bag back in the cash box along with the passbooks. This is the starting balance of the loan fund for the next cycle. The key holders lock the cash box and the chairperson closes the meeting. The facilitator then explains that the last training module to be scheduled at the convenience of the group is Training Module 9. This is the last scheduled visit of the facilitator to the group. The purpose of this training module is to facilitate the startup of the second cycle. Some groups may prefer to initiate the second cycle immediately after the end of the first cycle, while other groups may prefer to suspend their activities for a short period before initiating a second cycle. Training Module 9 should only be delivered once the group is ready to begin the second cycle. The facilitator supports the revision of the group constitution and the election of a new management committee. The group then initiates its second cycle and continues to operate independent of AKF and ideally for many years to come.